Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to dive into something pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Long context question answering, or LCQA.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but basically it's all about getting AI to understand and answer questions from like really long documents.
Think research papers,
Exactly, like massive textbooks, or even like,
legal documents.
yeah, stuff that would make even the most dedicated reader's eyes glaze over.
Yeah, totally. And that's honestly where the challenge lies, right? It's one thing for an AI to pick out keywords,
Right, yeah.
but to really grasp the nuances, the connections between ideas in these super long texts, that's a whole other ballgame.
Absolutely. It's like you said, it's not just finding a needle in a haystack. It's understanding how that needle fits into the whole darn tapestry.
Exactly. And, traditional LLMs, they often struggle with this kind of long-form comprehension.
Yeah, you gotta get lost in the weeds.
They do. It's like asking someone to summarize a novel after just reading a random paragraph or two.
Right, you miss the whole plot, the character
Exactly.
development, everything.
Exactly. And, traditional RAG systems, they've tried to tackle this by breaking down these massive documents into smaller chunks.
Right, kind of like dividing and conquering.
Yeah. But the problem is you often lose that crucial overall context. Those connections, those subtle relationships that make the whole thing make sense.
It's like trying to understand a joke by only hearing the punchline.
Exactly. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
what was the setup here?
Haha.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the paper we're looking at today actually uses a great example to illustrate this.
Oh, yeah.
They talk about Kathy Griffin
Okay.
and her song I'll Say It,
I'll say it.
and how a typical RAG system might pick up a chunk of text that mentions Griffin
Right.
and another chunk that mentions a college,
Uh-huh.
but it completely fails to connect that the college is actually related to a completely different person mentioned earlier in the text.
So it's like it's grabbing bits and pieces, but not really understanding the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that can obviously lead to some pretty inaccurate or incomplete answers.
Right? It's like those lost in translation moments where you're just missing key pieces of the conversation.
Totally. But that's where LongRAG comes in.
Yeah.
This new system is kind of a game changer because it directly addresses these long context challenges.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And get this, it's not just like a little bit better, it's actually showing some seriously impressive results. Like, it's significantly outperforming existing methods.
Wow. So how does it do that? What's the secret sauce?
Well, it all boils down to its dual perspective approach.
Yeah.
It's not just about retrieving relevant chunks of information, it's also about understanding how those chunks fit into the larger narrative of the entire document.
Okay, so it's like having a bird's eye view of the whole thing while still being able to zoom in on the important details.
Exactly. And then it goes a step further and filters out all the noise,
Yeah.
the stuff that might lead to those inaccurate answers we were talking about.
Okay, so walk me through how that works.
So LongRAG has these two main components. The first is called an LLM-augmented information extractor.
Okay, an LLM-augmented information extractor.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially think of it like a zoom lens. It takes those retrieved chunks and maps them back to their original paragraphs within the document.
So it's like putting those pieces of the puzzle back into their proper place.
Exactly. And that allows the system to see how the information flows, how the different ideas connect and form a cohesive narrative.
Ah, so it's not just looking at isolated sentences, it's getting the full context.
Precisely. And then we have the second key component, which is the CoT-guided filter.
CoT-guided filter. What's CoT?
CoT stands for chain of thought. And it's kind of like this super smart fact checker.
Okay.
It meticulously analyzes each retrieved chunk to make sure it's actually relevant to the question and the overall context of the document.
So it's like double checking its work, making sure everything makes sense.
Exactly. And this chain of thought process is really interesting. It's like the system is thinking step by step. Okay, does this piece of information really belong here? Is it connected to the question? Does it fit with the overall argument?
So it's not just blindly accepting information, it's really scrutinizing every detail.
Exactly. And by going through this rigorous filtering process, LongRAG ensures that only the most crucial and genuinely connected pieces of information are used to answer the question.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So this is all sounding pretty good. But
Right.
how does LongRAG actually stack up against the competition? Like, how do we know it's really doing what it claims to do?
Well, the paper highlights its performance on 3 particularly challenging multi-hop datasets.
Okay.
These are datasets that require the system to make multiple connections and inferences to arrive at the correct answer.
Right, so it's really putting LongRAG through its paces.
Exactly. The datasets are called Hotpot QA to Wiki Multi-Hop QA and Music.
Okay, those are some pretty tough ones. I've heard of those.
And the results are honestly pretty remarkable. LongRAG isn't just beating traditional RAG systems.
Uh-huh.
It's actually outperforming specialized long-context LLMs, like LongAlign and LongLoRi.
Wow. Those are some heavy hitters in the LCQA world.
I know, right? And what's even more impressive is that LongRAG achieved these results using both small and large language models.
So it's not just a matter of throwing more computing power at the problem.
Exactly. It suggests that LongRAG's approach is inherently more efficient and adaptable, which means it could potentially be more accessible to a wider range of users.
Right, even those who might not have access to those massive supercomputers.
Exactly. Now, of course, every system has its limitations.
Sure.
And the paper does acknowledge a few areas where LongRAG could be improved.
Okay, like what?
One of the main limitations is its reliance on a single retrieval pass.
Meaning it only gets one shot to find the right information.
Pretty much, yeah. So if the initial retrieval isn't perfect, if it misses some key information, the system might not be able to fully recover.
Ah, so it's like missing a crucial clue early on in a detective case. You could throw the whole investigation off track.
Exactly. And while that initial retrieval is usually very good, there's always room for improvement.
Right. There's always that chance it might miss something crucial.
Exactly. So it sounds like LongRAG is making some serious waves in the world of long-context question answering.
It definitely sounds promising.
It's addressing a major challenge in the field, and the results so far are really encouraging. But as with any cutting-edge AI technology, there's always more to explore.
Of course, the journey never really ends, does it?
Nope. And in part 2 of our deep dive, we're going to take an even closer look at the inner workings of LongRAG and how it achieves those impressive results.
Okay, I'm ready to go deeper.
Awesome. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. We're digging deeper into LongRAG, and now we're going to get a bit more technical.
Okay, bring on the tech talk.
Don't worry, we'll keep it approachable, but I'm really curious about how this system actually works, like the nitty-gritty.
Sure, let's break it down. So remember, the goal here is to answer questions based on these really long, really dense documents.
Right, giant walls of text.
Exactly. And the first step, as with any RAG system, is to find the most relevant chunks of information within that massive sea of text.
Okay, so it's like searching a huge library for the right books on a specific topic.
That's a great analogy. We need to find the needles in the haystack.
Right. But we learned earlier that traditional RAG systems can struggle because they chop up the document, which can lead to losing that all-important context.
Exactly. Context is key. And that's where LongRAG's retriever comes in.
Okay, the retriever.
Yeah, this is the part of the system that actually fetches the relevant information. So LongRAG uses this really cool hybrid retriever that combines two powerful techniques to find the best chunks while preserving that context.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are these two techniques?
All right, so the first one is called dual encoder retrieval. Think of it like a quick scan of the entire document.
So, like skimming the headlines.
Yeah, exactly. It efficiently identifies the chunks that have the highest semantic similarity to the question. Essentially, it's a fast way to filter out the obviously irrelevant stuff.
So it's like looking at the book titles to see which ones seem related to our topic.
Perfect analogy. But LongRAG doesn't stop there. It then uses a second technique called cross-encoder retrieval.
Okay, cross-encoder retrieval.
This method is a bit slower, but much more precise.
So this is where we dive deeper into the content of those selected books.
Precisely. The cross-encoder really analyzes the relationship between the question and each chunk in a much more nuanced way.
So it's not just about matching keywords, it's about understanding the deeper meaning.
Exactly. It helps to eliminate any false positives from that initial skimming and make sure we're left with the most relevant information possible.
This all sounds very thorough.
Okay.
So we've got this sophisticated retriever bringing us the best possible chunks of information. What happens next?
Okay, great question. So now we have these chunks, but they're still isolated pieces of a larger puzzle. Remember how we talked about traditional RAG systems losing context?
Yeah, it's like trying to understand a movie by watching random scenes out of order.
Exactly. And that's where LongRAG's information extractor comes into play.
Ah, yes, the information extractor.
It takes those retrieved chunks and maps them back to their original locations within the document.
So it's like putting those movie scenes back in the right order so we can finally follow the plot.
Perfect. By piecing together the puzzle in this way, LongRAG can see the bigger picture. It understands the flow of information, the relationships between different ideas, and the overall context of the entire document.
So it's like having a map of the whole territory, not just a few scattered landmarks.
Exactly. And this contextual awareness is key. It's what allows LongRAG to generate such accurate and insightful answers.
It's the difference between just knowing facts and actually understanding them.
Right. It's not just about finding keywords. It's about understanding how the different parts of the text connect and contribute to the overall message.
Okay, so we've retrieved the relevant chunks and placed them back into their original context. What's the next step in this process?
Now it's time for the CoT-guided filter to do its magic. Remember, this component is all about checking the relevance of each chunk, like a super-powered fact-checker.
It's like double-checking our sources to make sure everything is accurate and supports our argument.
Exactly. And as we mentioned earlier, the CoT part stands for chain of thought. This allows the system to think through the problem step by step.
So it's like it's asking itself, okay, does this piece of information really belong here? Does it actually support the main point?
Exactly. The filter carefully analyzes each chunk step by step, examining its connection to the question, the supporting evidence, and any potential contradictions.
It's like a detective meticulously examining each clue to solve a complex case.
Great analogy. And through this rigorous process, the CoT-guided filter ensures we're only working with the most credible and relevant information.
Okay, so we've got this highly refined set of information. Now what?
Now it's ready to be passed on to the final component of LongRAG, the LLM-augmented generator. This is where the magic happens.
Ah, so this is where all our meticulous preparation pays off. The moment of truth.
You got it. And remember, this generator isn't just working with isolated chunks of information. It has access to the full context we painstakingly pieced together.
So it's like a master chef who now has all the perfectly prepped ingredients to create a culinary masterpiece.
I like that analogy. The generator takes all that contextualized information, combines it with its language generation abilities, and produces a clear, concise, and accurate answer to the question.
This whole process is really quite impressive. It's so much more than just finding information. It's about understanding it, connecting it, and synthesizing it to create a meaningful and insightful answer.
Exactly. And that's what sets LongRAG apart from those traditional RAG systems. It's not just retrieving information, it's understanding it.
It's like the difference between memorizing facts and actually being able to apply them.
Right. But there's one more crucial element that really elevates LongRAG's performance: fine-tuning.
Ah, yes, fine-tuning. We touched upon this earlier, but I'm eager to learn more about how it specifically enhances LongRAG's capabilities. That's where we'll pick up when we come back for part 3. See you soon. Welcome back to the final part of our LongRAG deep dive. We've explored how this system retrieves information, puts it back into context, filters out the irrelevant bits, and now it's time to talk about fine-tuning.
Yeah, fine-tuning is really where it all comes together.
Okay, so remind us what fine-tuning is all about.
Well, you can think of it like taking an already talented student and giving them specialized training in a particular field.
Okay, so like taking someone who's good at math and then giving them advanced calculus lessons.
Exactly. In the case of LongRAG, the researchers created this special instruction dataset called LRG instruction.
LRG instruction.
Yeah, it's specifically designed to fine-tune the model for long context question answering.
So it's like giving the system a crash course in how to handle these really complex questions.
Exactly. It's all about honing its skills, making it even more adept at understanding and responding to those multi-hop questions we've been discussing.
And what's really cool is that this fine-tuning process isn't just a one-time thing. It's a technique that can be applied to other domains and data sets as well, right?
Absolutely. Think about it. We could fine-tune LongRAG for analyzing legal documents, medical research, historical archives.
Wow, the possibilities are endless.
They really are. This flexibility is a big part of what makes LongRAG so promising. It's not just a one-trick pony. It's a versatile tool that can be adapted to a wide range of applications.
That's what I find so exciting about these AI advancements. We're seeing more and more systems that can be customized to fit specific needs.
Right. It's like having a Swiss Army knife for information processing.
Exactly. And the paper also mentions something called component transferability.
Oh, yeah, that's an important one.
Can you explain what that means?
Sure. So basically, it means we don't always need the most powerful and expensive LLMs for every step of the process.
So we can potentially save some computational resources without sacrificing performance.
Exactly. It's all about efficiency. For example, the researchers found that using a smaller, more efficient LLM for the information extractor and CoT-guided filter, while reserving a larger LLM for the final answer generation stage, actually produced comparable results to using a large LLM for every component.
So it's like using the right tool for the right job.
Exactly. It speaks to the inherent efficiency of LongRAG's architecture. We don't always need to brute force our way through a problem with the biggest and most powerful AI. Sometimes a more targeted approach can be just as effective.
It's like realizing you don't need a sledgehammer to crack a walnut.
Ha 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 ha, exactly. Sometimes a nutcracker works just fine.
So it seems like LongRAG is really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in long context question answering.
It really is. It's a significant step forward, and I think it has the potential to revolutionize how we interact with information.
Absolutely. Imagine a world where we can easily get answers from these massive, complex documents without having to spend hours sifting through them ourselves.
Right. It would be a game changer for research, for education, for so many fields.
It's really exciting to think about. And as always, we encourage our listeners to keep exploring. The world of AI is constantly evolving, and there's always something new to learn and discover.
So stay curious.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into LongRAG, and we'll see you next time for another exciting exploration of the world of AI.